Hey, Sean Chandler here, and I'm joined by a few of my friends, and we are about to dive in with a full-blown spoiler discussion of Captain Marvel. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch this video. We don't want to spoil it. I don't want it spoiled for you. Even if you don't care, I care a little bit. So please go watch the movie, then come back, watch this one. Join us down in the comment section. Tell us what you thought about it. Before we do that, let's see, who are you wonderful people? They're in town for South by Southwest, and so it just happened to work out that we were able to go see this movie together. Introduce yourself.
My name's Zach. I run the same type of YouTube channel doing movie reviews as well.
Yeah? Do you? What's the name of your channel?
Oh, Zach Pope Reviews, you know?
Sweet. Out of town. Wow.
Yeah, you never would know that.
Wow, yeah. Well,
very nice.
I'm Griffin. I run the Men vs. Movies YouTube channel. And yeah, that's about all really, I need to say about that.
We like talking movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your catchphrase.
There you go.
Yeah, we talk movies too much.
That's exactly why I was excited when I found out we were going to be able to go see Captain Marvel together. And then I could actually talk about the movie with you guys, since I've been talking movies with you guys for 2 years now, but we never met in person. So this was pretty wild the way this has all worked out, and lots of fun. With that said, let's go ahead and get started talking about the movie. First impressions.
I liked it more than I think you guys did. This is my second time seeing it,
right.
And I liked it more the second time I saw it because I knew what I was getting. I don't think it's the best Marvel film. I don't think it's the worst. It's kind of just in the middle if I were to rank them all. So I liked it a lot, though. I think it was way better than I thought it was going to be, especially from those trailers.
Yeah, for sure.
And so for me, it's a Marvel movie. They're all very enjoyable. They're all very watchable. They're great popcorn films. In the spectrum of them, this is probably on the lower half for me. Just a lot of clunky elements to it. I mean, great to see Samuel L. Jackson. There's a bunch of things that are really great about it, but overall, there's some underwhelming aspects.
Yeah, and I'm really not too far off from you. I know everyone...
You hated it.
The jokes that I hated. Like, I really don't hate the movie. It basically just turned out the way that I thought it was going to turn out. Like you said, I don't think... Like, it was very choppy in its execution. And Brie Larson, at times, was a little hit or miss for me. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, yeah, it's a Marvel movie. They've got some good action in there, but ultimately it was just like kind of unremarkable for the most part.
And I can go with that too. Like, I get where you're coming from. I just think like, I don't know, like Marvel films, like there's not one Marvel film where I can sit there and be like, like you said, they're all entertaining. They're all good. Yeah. Like there's not one crap box that like totally like was bad.
Speaking of good, what's your favorite things about this movie?
Nick Fury. I think Nick Fury...
I would agree.
Like, hands down, it's great to see Samuel L. Jackson actually getting to be one of the main characters of this film. Like, we haven't really seen that in one of these films. He's always the side character, whether it be Avengers, Iron Man 2, and I was really happy to see that he's actually in this film for a majority of the runtime.
Yeah. It's where, like, from the trailers, you didn't know, like, are they showing us most of the Nick Fury that's in here, or is he just kind of a cameo? Coulson is like, he's the cameo. Yeah. That's what I was afraid that Nick Fury was going to be. It's not that at all. He is in this movie. You really get to see pre-cynical Nick Fury. This is him being introduced to the insanity that is the universe.
And he's a little bit different. Like, he's younger into the S.H.I.E.L.D. business.
Yeah, you see some like his naiveness is in there a little bit. But seriously, like, I think we overlook it a little bit because of how good it is, but the de-aging is it's never been better in this. The fact that they were able to not resurrect, but bring back, 90s Sam Jackson.
It fades in perfectly. Like, you totally forget that he's that's
like him.
That he's 70.
Yeah,
it doesn't. That still blows my mind. Yeah, that he's even 70, man.
That helps too. That he's 70 and doesn't look like he's 70 at all.
Yeah, he looks like 30.
Yeah,
they're easily really 30. Like Pulp Fiction days. Like that's what he looked like. So
yeah, but other than the obvious, like you said, it was like his arc was really interesting because it was him basically coming into his own. As much of it as it was an origin story for Captain Marvel, it was an origin story for Nick Fury as well. And from some of the more aesthetic type elements, from his scar to like his outlook on the world, and why he's so passionate about the Avengers Initiative. Obviously, at the end, we're diving into spoilers here. Obviously, at the end, he decides to name it the Avengers Initiative because of his encounter with Carol, and so that was kind of a nice touch there.
And their relationship too. That's when I really thought Brie Larson worked, is when she was with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
yeah, that's their
I
banter was
even
great.
said this, is that I think I liked her in the role. I thought she did a good job. I'm more excited to see what she does in the future though. Because it's the same thing with Chris Hemsworth. I liked him as Thor, but I didn't love him. When he's in the team elements, though, I love him. And that's why I thought
he plays off
better.
other people's humor comes out.
Brie Larson will do better in, say, Endgame and whatever else she does down the road in the MCU.
Yeah, for sure. But other than, Nick Fury, I honestly, and maybe even more, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe even more so than Nick Fury, I think that Ben Mendelsohn as Talos was excellent. I mean, you want to talk about a very layered character, because he's pitched as the villain, but obviously we see he's not the villain.
No. And that's so I'd heard Ben Mendelsohn kind of steals the show a little bit going into it, and then the movie starts and it's like, oh, Ben Mendelsohn once again, he's the villain with a little bit of Mendelsohnisms of him. And then, it had some nice touches to it as it was kind of going through it, even in the first half before they kind of twisted revealed where things were going. But as soon as they started doing the reveal, he actually gets to be a good guy.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And they actually did a lot of good stuff with the Skrulls, and they planted a lot of seeds for future MCU again with the Skrulls, and who knows where else they are. Else, what other characters could be a Skrull and stuff. And I like the whole dynamic, with the whole thing when Nick Fury's driving with Coulson. That one actually got me. That was the only, that was the main Skrull one where I was like, oh, Coulson's a Skrull right there in the car, and they get in a fight, which was, I thought the fight scenes in here were pretty good. The up close ones when they're hand to hand.
I don't know. I gotta be honest. Some of the fight choreography was not great, and especially the way it was shot. So sometimes you could not even
agree with the
see
shot.
what was going on.
It was dark.
Yeah.
It was dark in some of those, especially the one on the ship when they're all fighting at the end. I
couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah.
It was just not good.
I could tell it was Brie Larson because she was fighting and she was lighting up.
Right. But those are negatives. We're talking about positives here. Yes.
We'll get there soon.
Yeah.
But to the Nick Fury, as well as kind of the driving the car stuff, especially being set in the 90s, reminded me of the X-Files at times.
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
This investigation. Let's go to this person's house, ask him some questions.
And I like that mystery aspect of it too. But we are forgetting to talk about one important factor here. That is the cat. Goose the cat. I love the cat. I'm sorry. This cat can kill Thanos. I'm taking it. Groot and the cat can take Thanos on.
That's a buddy cop movie.
That is a good animated Disney Plus streaming service. Disney, you can take that idea.
Yeah, that's true. We need to pitch that one.
Yeah, Goose the cat. Listen, I thought the gag of Goose the cat was enjoyable. And the way that Ben Mendelsohn's Talos would kind of react to it was funny, and then Sam Jackson playing with the cat was obviously funny. Really, the only thing that bugged me was just that's how Nick Fury gets his scar.
And they were hinting at it even earlier. They were hinting. How's your eye? And I was like, is he even gonna lose his eye in this film? I was thinking maybe they won't. But
they kept it was a running gag, but I don't know. And I mean, maybe it says something about his pride. He's just a very prideful guy. So of course he wouldn't want to admit that he got his eye clawed out by a cat. But just when you see it happen, you just kind of go, really?
Yeah, you eye rolled big time.
I literally, in the theater.
And groaned. The whole theater could feel your opinion on that choice.
The second it happened.
I'd agree with you.
It's weird that it's the continuity of what they're going forward with now.
And then he throws up the test run. That was a funny. I was laughing, but at the same time,
both of those things felt I don't mind if you're gonna do it as a post-credit scene, it throws up the test, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's perfectly fine. But when you actually have it as a plot point that one of the defining things of Nick Fury is it's Samuel L. Jackson with an eye patch, the coolest guy with an eye patch in the 21st century.
Yeah.
And they basically play it as a goofy joke.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's
and that's where the MCU,
isn't that funny?
That's where the MCU jokes kind of get.
But what I will say is, in something I really liked about this film, kind of going off of the humor, this film really didn't have a lot of forced humor in it. It didn't really have that much humor at all. Most of the humor came from Ben Mendelsohn or the kind of the fish out of water thing.
Which worked.
Absolutely. But yeah, the fish out of water thing with Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. And so that was kind of refreshing to me, and I think they've been going down that path a little bit more with films as of late. Obviously, Ragnarok was really goofy and comedic, but other than that, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, yeah, but that's kind of what
that was more of a comedy.
It's like a buddy comedy. Yeah, of course. But now, Captain Marvel, I'm glad that they didn't, try and shove too much comedy down our throats, because that's been a big issue that I've had with some of the films in the series.
Well, and the film feels pre-Phase 1. Like, it literally feels like a Phase 1 film, in my opinion.
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially just, like, with the tone of it and how they went for it. Like, it actually feels like...
The clunkiness of the tone.
We're still out there. But it feels like there's still, like, even how Phase 1 was, we're trying to fill out what does the audience want. And I think they're trying to fill out what do they want from Captain Marvel. Do they want her to be like Thor, where she's more comedic, like how Thor is now? Or do we want her to be more like Captain America, where he's more of the serious type one in his films? So,
yeah.
And I think down the road, I actually think she's going to be more of the Thor, like, going forward. I actually think the next film will be like, I think we were talking about this, like a director like Taika Waititi will come in and put his own stamp on Captain Marvel and make it a little bit different, which I don't personally want. I want them to kind of just take a different director like the Russo brothers, or like someone who will make it a little bit more, I don't know, what's the word, like, damn it, what's the word?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's not funny.
Honestly,
it's more serious, like how Winter Soldier was.
Yeah.
But also infusing those nice comedic moments.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they don't try and... the reason that you can pull off Chris Hemsworth Thor turning really funny is because Chris Hemsworth can be really funny.
Yeah, he is funny.
And so then you can figure out just how good he is. I mean, I was watching Age of Ultron the other day, and just like the scene where they're trying to pick up the hammer, and Captain America almost picks it up, and the face that Hemsworth makes is so funny, and it's like, you can't write that for everyone.
No,
everyone can't do
perfect.
that. It only works because he is that funny and can do these little reactions and stuff, and his timing's really good.
And that's where I thought Brie Larson did better, was when she was being more serious than trying to pull off the comedic jokes. For her character at least. I think some of the sassy jokes that she said were funny, and I actually like that about her character, is that, I mean, Brie Larson always plays that same type of character, and I think that's where I actually think she was really greatly casted. I mean, you could have put a lot of different actresses as Captain Marvel, but I thought she did good for the way that they wrote Carol Danvers.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had moments, and most of those moments were when she was with Nick Fury, and it felt like she was more comfortable, but most of the time, she felt very awkward.
Yeah, I thought she was awkward.
Yeah.
I just felt like that's how they wrote her, though, just because it's a fish out of water, so I feel like she's trying to be awkward, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not how they were trying to
Here's the thing. We all know that Brie Larson is an excellent actress.
Yeah.
I mean, she won an Academy Award. So I have to look at the directing.
I have been reading the internet recently, and you are wrong. The internet has told me she's terrible.
I know that too, yeah.
I have read that, and I believe everything I read on the internet.
Yeah, me too.
Insane. Oh my god.
Now you know.
Who would
Now
ever know?
Wow.
But so, like, I felt a lot of the acting in the... Well, let's transition.
Yeah,
We can go back to a positive if they come up, but transition, since we keep going back to Brie Larson, a lot of the acting in the movie felt weird to me. A lot of the performances, like, just off is the word that we've been using since then, of, like, it's not like they're... Annette Bening was the one we kept mentioning, like, what was that? That was weird.
She was, like I said, Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson, great.
On point.
Yeah. Awesome. Talos, Ben Mendelsohn, awesome.
On point.
Yeah.
Brie Larson were kind of mixed on. I liked her, but still. But again, Annette Bening, like, what film was she in?
I don't really know what movie she was in.
What do you think of her friend? I don't know the actress who plays her friend.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who she is.
Yeah,
but
I thought she was good for what they gave her, but again, it just
seemed odd.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess somewhat we're talking about of feeling like Phase 1, feel like it felt like people were in different movies. Mm-hmm. It seemed like scene to scene kind of different, because the first 15 minutes is like sci-fi 100%.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're on Earth, and it feels like the X-Files, and then it feels like I don't even know what you'd call the last 40 minutes of it or whatever, but like it feels like very different things from where you're at, and the performances, different people feel like they're in different movies, and they're not all bad performances. They're just like, we haven't come up with the right words to describe what feels off about them.
And it's not,
and
like
there's three of us.
Right, exactly. And it's not like something where it's like, well, that's just genre mashing. It's like, well, it's it's not genre mashing, because genre mashing would be them blending the two together. This feels like it switches back and forth. They can't really figure out what kind of movie it wants to be. Like you said, the beginning stuff, I'm gonna be honest, the beginning stuff was borderline bad. It was so poorly paced. It was horribly just like shot. There was nothing remarkable about it.
It wasn't like
exposition dump. It's like, here's everything you need to know so that you can follow this movie and know who we are.
And even when I was thinking, I was like, we've already been addressed to the cosmic realm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know all the like cosmic stuff. We've watched if you've seen Guardians, like you can kind of get the touches, and it felt like they were trying to explain like, oh, that's why we have aliens, that's why we have this,
right?
And it just like going with you, like the first half was bad, but that's what I actually like about this film. It got better, definitely, and I mean that's probably better. But I was gonna say, going back, I felt like also going to the acting. There's 4 or 5 writers on this film. 4 or 5 writers.
Yeah,
and
that would explain a few things.
You can tell.
And I don't know if it was like first draft, second draft, third draft. And I remember one of the first people that hopped onto it was someone who wrote Inside Out. Another person who hopped on it was Guardians of the Galaxy. And then 2 other films that I think were also MCU films. But it was like they were trying to throw what will be best for Captain Marvel into that script. And I think, again, the first part, the second act, or first act, second act, third act, were all kind of different. Which MCU films have done before, but it just felt off going with that.
But you can even immediately, to make the obvious comparison, go back to Infinity War less than a year ago. You've got grounded on Earth. You have super sci-fi planets. All of the different franchises come into one, and it feels like one voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that you've got the Russos who have done a bunch of these movies, and then you have those 2 writers that have written half the MCU.
Yeah.
And so then it feels cohesive, whereas this one felt like what you just described. It felt like someone joining this universe for the first time, trying to like, okay, how do I pull all these pieces together?
Plus 2 directors who have made really good indie films, but it's 2 directors. And again, I mean, then people make the references Russo and Anthony.
Well, it's one of those things where and we were talking about this earlier before we even saw the film. It's like with the Russos, it could have gone one of 2 ways. If it obviously went really well, and now everyone's like, oh, that was a stroke of genius. But it also could have gone really bad, and then people would have been like, oh, well, they got the guys from Community, so maybe that wasn't the best choice. This is another scenario where it's like, oh, you got the directors from Half Nelson and Mississippi Grind. Okay, interesting. This could either be really good, and we'll applaud you for your ballsy move, or this could be not the greatest, and we get what we get. And I'm not saying they're bad directors or anything, but I think the clear issue with this movie is a lack of vision, a lack of focus, and just like there's hardly any directorial kind of style. It feels like a corporate production.
You said it feels like a studio director.
You said that before you watched the movie too. So were you going in looking for that?
No, I really wasn't.
That's what the trailers looked like.
Well, and that was actually going to be my next point. Was this movie basically was what the trailers made it out to be, which is what I was afraid of. It felt like
I'll let you go down. But they don't. Well, not on the story though. The trailers don't show the story. That was interesting because I was something I commented.
They hit a lot, and I remember one of the trailers I saw was like pretty much saying you need to see this for Endgame. Besides the end credit scene, I don't really think you need to see this for Endgame. Like, it's cool to know her, but you don't get to know a lot about her, which is a con.
Yeah. Even the movie's a little confusing about what her power set is. Because it's like holding her back until the end, and then it's like, she's really powerful.
She has everything.
But she's not powerful enough to just take these people out in the room, so I don't know how powerful she is, but she's powerful.
There's kind of like an inconsistency with like not necessarily her powers, I guess, but just kind of like with the... like some continuity.
They didn't do a good job explaining what her powers are. Like, she shoots stuff out of her hand. She can fly around. And her eyes glow. Like she's pretty much a Dragon Ball character.
Yeah, I mean, seems to absorb electricity from things, energy from things. But the reason I know that is because I did a video with my buddy Andy, and he told me that.
Isn't she like quantum realm? Isn't she like have to do with the quantum realm too, or something?
There's a whole bunch of weird, of weird, but. That's not really clear from the movie. You don't watch the movie and go, oh, this is what
that's what I was thinking was like, okay, are they going to tie this in somehow to Ant-Man and the Wasp with the quantum realm that they touched on in there? Like, I just felt like there was points where you could have tackled it a little bit better, especially with her character. And even going back to those flashbacks, they were just glimpses.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was my thing.
Let's talk about that.
I never thought that there was really a clear... establishment of the character. Like, it's a lot of telling and not really showing. Everyone really talks about how great she is. Everyone really tells her, this is like part of who you are. And yeah, that's part of the message is her, coming into her own. But I never really believed it because I don't think, like in Brie Larson's performance, I never saw her believe it. So how am I going to believe that she thinks that she is Captain Marvel? And so that was a little frustrating to me. But yeah, and I mean, there's just some of the stuff with the character really wasn't well fleshed out and developed. And sure, you have other films for that, but in an origin story where those flashbacks are so integral into defining who she is, I think if the movie had started with introducing some of those elements in getting us kind of invested in Carol from the get-go and having us understand who she is as a person other than I'm sassy, that would have been a much better way to have like just like great payoff at the end.
Well, and he even goes to more exposition with like when she's seen the photos from her.
Yeah,
friend.
that was
it
the
was
big
like
one.
You didn't have a good family relationship. It's like I could just guess her
feel
dad
it.
Was mad at her. Like,
Yeah, it's
I
like-
just thought the dad was mad at her. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's
I
like
don't know.
so okay. Your relationship with your father is horrible. It's like one instance doesn't like one very very brief instance does not show me that. You just have I guess it's her niece, right? Just like kind of like pointing at a bunch of pictures from her past and saying,
it
oh,
should've
this.
just been flashbacks. And I've seen there's certain films that have done flashbacks, right, where they'll start with a flashback, then they'll go forward,
Yeah.
and they'll go backwards, and it works seamlessly. But it,
Man of Steel.
Oh,
Man of
yes.
Steel did this.
Yes.
And they did it. Like, go ahead, crucify me. I don't care. But I think that Man of Steel did a similar thing, but it worked for the film because we saw Clark.
there was a focus.
become-
There was
yeah,
a more
yeah,
focus on what we want to do with this character.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's where like this one is even the way the origin's done is very weird and different, which in some ways that's a good thing. Just not to just follow like it doesn't follow the Marvel template.
No, I wouldn't say it does.
And-
Yeah,
and-
no.
And like she has her powers at the beginning. We know she has powers, and we don't figure out how until 2/3 of the way through the movie,
Sure.
and then she doesn't get her full powers until 75% of the way through the movie. And so it plays all very differently, but it does. It's for that reason, it doesn't necessarily have the impact it necessarily should. Some of that's like you see the trailer and you basically see all of her upbringing that's in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's-
they showed. They showed glimpses of all the good action scenes. Her flying around. The CGI did look better on the big screen compared to the trailers.
It was still hit or miss for me, but I do like on the whole. Yeah, it was good.
Can I say one thing that really bothered me?
What?
I'll let you have one.
Can she breathe in air? Can she breathe out in space? Because sometimes she'd have her
Yeah,
mask
I guess
on,
that
and
was-
then
yeah.
at the end she flies up. And I'm like, and it bothered me the first time. I'm like, where's her mask? Can
Those
she breathe?
inconsistencies, those little two. The thing that I would have liked to have seen more of, and I think it's because I loved Lashana Lynch so much, who was her friend, that relationship. Because in the scene where they're talking together, you really see like Lashana, giving it her all, giving a great performance and feeling like so invested in that relationship. And then obviously, Brie not really reciprocating that feeling because of her not remembering it. That would have been a lot more impactful had we gotten more of that relationship up to that point.
I think the film should have just been on Earth majority. I think she should have just always been on Earth. I don't think they should have taken her to the Kree and tried tying her with Ronan, who's barely in
Ronan
the film.
was-
Again, and then his Coran or whatever, played by Djimon. It's like nice little tie-ins, and then of course you have the Tesseract, which it's like, okay, cool. So little Easter eggs here and there.
Yeah, and I saw like, and I don't know if any of you guys read it, but like everyone was saying, oh, this really it's like makes everything come full circle now for for like the first Avengers, and I'm just like, well, knowing that Nick Fury has the Tesseract doesn't like do anything.
I just assume they got it from the ice.
Yeah,
that's where I assume they got it from.
Yeah, but
Right. It's like there's a couple of the like I like the Tesseract coming back. I thought it filled in some details.
Yeah.
I was hoping that Ronan, I thought there was a logic to Ronan appearing in it, and it kind of hinted at the fact, wait, the Kree probably aren't going to be such good guys in this. It hinted without fully telegraphing it, and then he shows up, and he's literally just in this one looking out his window. And then he leaves.
Which then they're just setting up for a sequel, which I don't want to see Ronan in a Captain Marvel sequel. I already know what happens to him, so I would rather them explore something else with her.
So I went into this movie hoping that they were kind of holding back on Ronan in the movie because he was he was actually going to be the main villain. It kind of was.
When he was announced, I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
And that they were really going to give him a character so that you'd watch Guardians and it would fill in some of those gaps. So, yeah, I really thought they were going to make Ronan better. Yeah. And thus make Guardians of the Galaxy a better movie. And instead it was like, okay, you made him just as one-dimensional. Yeah. The appeal of bringing him back was that you could make him better. Because he
was interesting in Guardians. It's just like there was nothing.
There's very like he has an ideology, and so that's kind of interesting. This one just gives you like, oh, see, he's been blowing up planets for a while now.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things where it's just I remember that guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's a Kree.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not forget about him. Yeah. Because anyone could have played that.
Yeah.
You could have added any character.
And this is kind of a weird segue, but that kind of being superficial, what did you guys think of the 90s setting? Do you think that it was a little too superficial, or do you think it worked?
Honestly, I think it worked. Sometimes it felt a little forced.
Yeah.
But I you know what I wish they didn't show in the trailer was the Best Buy.
Yeah.
I think it would have been such... Because knowing it was happening... The second she crashed, I'm like, there's Best Buy. But I thought the 90s worked. I loved the soundtrack. Yeah, and I actually thought
most of the time I love the soundtrack.
Really?
Like in the third act when it's like, hey, let's start playing No Doubt.
Yeah.
That was
just
the
a
one
girl.
where I was like, yeah.
And they were like, dramatically, it didn't really work because it should have been like this tense thing where she's distracting people so they can get away, and then everything's played for a joke, and they're showing like, look how powerful she is, and at the same time it's like people are getting shot because she's like underplaying her powers. Like it was that whole scene. The
whole scene that you can barely see anything. I did love when the guy's like, don't make me do this to you, and she's like, okay, and then just shoots him away. Like I liked when she had those like one-liners to her. I don't know, like I liked how sassy she was.
Yeah, I know. I like the sassiness too.
Because we don't have that in the MCU. Like Black Widow is not sassy. She's very serious when it comes to herself. Like I don't think she fits that same criteria. So it's cool to see like a different type of personality get formed in here.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Black Widow's pretty tongue in cheek at times.
Sometimes,
I mean, But in terms of the '90s stuff, I'm kind of in the middle on it because I think there were a lot of just like, hey, '90s nostalgia thrown in your face, whether it's like from the music or it's just some of the stuff like the band T-shirts and whatnot, the grunge.
Yeah, that's all that stuff. It's tricky to do
so
some
many
of this.
band T-shirts. Like, is that all they had like for wardrobe? It was cool.
It's like. Remember 9 Inch Nails? Remember Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness? Remember those?
Yes.
Yeah, and the one that got me was like it was cool to hear Nirvana played in a Marvel song.
I actually like that scene.
I don't know. I'm on the
maybe it's just because Nirvana's because I love Nirvana. But
that's fair, but it just felt very like tonally weird. Like she just gets into this dream and Nirvana's blasting, and it has nothing to do with anything that's going on, other than the fact that Nirvana is playing.
Weird.
Maybe there's flashbacks showing how much she loves Nirvana.
I would have loved to have seen that.
But she left in 1989, and the Nirvana songs they played were from 1991.
Ooh,
so they would have had to play music from Bleach, which it's unlikely that she would have heard since it wasn't exactly a big hit.
True.
We're not talking about Nirvana.
We're not talking about... But there were other times, like especially during, like you mentioned with the chase stuff, where it actually did feel kind of like a '90s television show, like you mentioned, X-Files and stuff like that. And so that was exciting when they doubled down on that. But I didn't think they did that enough.
Did you guys like the train fight scene when she's fighting the old lady?
Yeah, it was
all in the trailer. The old lady flipping around. It's all in the trailer.
I just liked seeing everyone trying to grab her away from the old lady.
Yeah, that was funny.
And try and pull her off, because in reality, like that's what we would do. But at the same time, I'm like, this old lady's like doing some flips and stuff. Right. Something's not right here.
Yeah.
So to the remind me, like in those chases, going back 90s TV shows, like that whole thing where they're in the warehouse and the secret base. That's so X-Files-y.
Oh my god, yeah.
And just I thought that sequence worked really nicely. It just in the way that Nick Fury immediately is like, all right, she's clearly the good guy, and then Coulson, like they had these characters established pretty nicely in a way that you,
and especially if you come in from like knowing the other MCU, it just like adds more. And again, I think this film added so much more to Nick Fury. It added so much more. And like even seeing him in the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, I'm so excited to see what he's in there. I hope he's not just a cameo. Like I actually hope he is like, I don't expect for him to be like as much as Captain Marvel, but I actually hope that he's more in it than just a couple scenes, shooting that out, and then get Spider-Man on the team.
I don't like my Nick Furies in my Spider-Man movies. I want my Spider-Man movies.
Well, I do too.
But Spider-Man movies.
When he's in there, come on.
Okay, so closing things out as we're getting distracted by Spider-Man. Closing thoughts, if you just summarize your take on it one more time.
Well, the more we talked about it, now I'm starting not to like it as much. No,
those comments getting to you? The dislikes?
I think it's one of those ones, like, if you're talking about the positives, it's like, oh, it's a Marvel movie. It's fun. It's great to see a different time period. So it feels like you can say the positives real quick, but then it's like, well, this could have been better in this. It's a lot easier to dissect the negative. So if we've been overly negative, it's because we're coming into it as people that think the MCU's done a lot of great things. It's fun to see that time period, but there's not a whole lot of like specific to this movie. Like, this is what was amazing about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there's like there's not that many standout scenes where like you can point to other solo films like Winter Soldier. There's tons of standout scenes in there.
Yeah.
And Captain Marvel should have been a film that should have been like Winter Soldier, like that unique. That's special, and Captain Marvel's a good film. It's not the best. It's not the worst. People will like it. If you like the MCU, you're going to like it.
What is the best and what is the worst as a point of reference?
My favorite is Guardians of the Galaxy still, or Avengers Endgame. Kind of just goes between the two.
And it's a cosmic one. That's a perfect example. If we go into this world, and it just felt so fresh and original, and this one it was like, this feels so clunky.
Well, it's like, I love when they go different. Like Doctor Strange, I think, is really underrated. And then worst is I think Iron Man 2. Just story wise and
best and worst.
Best probably Avengers Infinity War with Winter Soldier right behind it. Worst, my pick is so wacky. Iron Man 3. I think
Why do you hate Shane Black so much? How dare you?
Because it's a Shane Black. This is a horrible Iron Man film.
What do you like more, The Predator or Iron Man 3?
How dare you?
We'll just leave it open-ended.
Interesting. Cody Leach would be not happy with your answer. I have Infinity War at top. I think right now I've got Thor 2 at the bottom.
Thor 2.
Thor 2, Iron Man 2, I go back and forth.
Yeah.
No style. It's actually confusing. A lot of the way the story plays out.
Yeah.
For a movie that's it has excessive exposition, you're still like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And very unclear the way things are plotted together. Like, just no flavor, no distinction.
Still the worst villain in the MCU.
Yeah, totally forgettable. And that's part of the reason the plot's so confusing, because he has no personality. He's has as much distinction as a random guy in a faceless army.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Captain Marvel.
Marvel.
Closing thoughts real quick.
Like again, not the best, not the worst. I like it. It's good. It's entertaining. Like, I'm gonna get it because I like the MCU and I want to fit it into my collection.
Sure.
Easy to recommend to Marvel fans.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, it's if you like Marvel movies, there's plenty of Marvel stuff you like, especially that Nick Fury, the time period, seeing kind of the establishment of some of this stuff, a couple nice little Easter eggs, one terrible Easter egg involving Nick Fury's eye. Fun, enjoyable time, but pretty clunky in the way it's put together and uneven in tone.
Yeah, uneven is actually the word I would use to describe this film. Uneven, unremarkable, and just unbalanced. It's not unlike what Thanos saying everything was not perfectly balanced. I think it suffered a lot of pacing issues, a lot of scripting issues, major directorial issues, and as much as I like Brie Larson as an actress, I don't know. I still struggle with her in the role. I think maybe in better hands moving forward, she'll be much better. And so I think in Avengers Endgame, for example,
you reserve your right to change your thoughts.
Absolutely. Here's the thing: I want her to succeed. I want her to do well because I like her as an actress, and because I think she possesses incredible talent, and I want to see her bring that talent to this character.
I think we're gonna see that in Endgame. I think she's gonna be like a major, especially from the end credit scene, which we didn't even talk about. She shows up.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that. What was I thinking? So we already talked about one.
Yeah.
Cat vomits. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
The juicy one. So my prediction going into the movie was that we were going to see her on the other end of the pager. Was my specific prediction. In which case, it was a version of that, which is to say that she's not on the other end of it. We see our crew, and they're like waiting.
Did you guys think she was going to show up? Because I was like sitting. I was like, she's going to show up.
Yeah, she's going to.
When the scene began, she's showing up.
Watching that scene, I was like, yeah, that's.
I just do not hope that is a scene from Endgame. Like how they did with Ant-Man's post-credit scene, how it was an Civil War. I did too, scene. But I don't want it to be just a scene from the film. Like I actually want it to be like going in. Like if you saw Captain Marvel, cool, you get this little snippet of why she's there.
I guess I don't know. I mean, like I feel like it probably is like a scene from Endgame. I just Captain America hasn't shaved yet. Yeah. He's still.
Did they CGI the beard out in the trailers?
Who knows? He's still got the beard.
And so one of the speculations about after the Super Bowl commercial was that people had CGI'd a character very clearly was removed from both when they're looking up into the sky and then when they're walking silhouetted at the end. There's like two spots where it looks like someone's.
I thought it was.
There's a guess as who might be there.
It's probably her.
It's probably her.
It's definitely.
I was saying Pepper to be a little bit different. But it's her. I mean, after the second credits, it's kind of like it could be Pepper
pretty clear.
But
yeah.
So, where can we find you on the internet?
Zach Pope Reviews, and also over on the website Sandwich on Films, where I do movie reviews and we give out advanced movie screens. So if you guys want to see some movies early, you guys can go check it out and see.
And he sees way more stuff before I do, so he has legit connections, and so he knows what he's talking about. So I would take him up on that if you want to see movies early.
You can find me on Zach Pope Reviews and Sandwich John Films, also giving out advanced movie screenings.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about Venom, so you have been over there.
Exactly. No, just kidding. You can find me. I've been Griffin, in case you forget my name. You can find me over at the Men vs. Movies YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Griff Schiller. I'm going to be posting my thoughts on films I see at South by Southwest, although I have no idea when this video is coming out, so maybe the festival will be over.
I think it'll be Sunday.
Okay,
cool.
So this still applies.
You'll see some big ones.
Yeah, go check it out.
I am Sean Chandler. You've already found me. You're on my channel. Be sure to tell us what you thought down below. Spoil away. It's a spoiler review. Have at it. Be respectful. Let's not do the weird, whatever's going on with this movie. Let's not do that. It's so weird. You can disagree. You can hate the movie. That's fine. Let's be respectful to people. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much. Wow, well, now that I'm way back here, look at how much room I have. This is crazy how this all works.
This is like super wide.
Super wide. Full. Well, I can do that. I don't know why I did that.